What's your take on this?
Well, again, I start off by acknowledging that I, like almost everybody else, was confused when this war started. We had certain assumptions that were wrong, etc. I think it would be wrong for me or anybody to have certain assumptions. For instance, that my analytical trend is that Russia is done with negotiations. Russia's done with concessions. FAFO, and we're in the FO part of that equation. But that's just me. My bias is that of a Marine, and I'm all about the FO. So Russia, I was surprised when I finally took a step back and reevaluated that first month and a half of the war. I was surprised about how committed Russia was to a negotiated settlement. That surprised me. And therefore, I need to respect that conclusion and understand that Russia might still be looking for a negotiated settlement, but it's not going to be a negotiated settlement on Ukraine's terms. It'll be a negotiated settlement on terms that allow Russia and the collective West to stabilize and get on the path of repairing their relations. But Ukraine's concerns, I mean, this is where Blinken has a problem, because he's floating trial balloons that have to be grounded in what Ukraine will accept. Russia doesn't care what Ukraine's going to accept. And I personally believe that the only negotiation that's going to take place is going to be similar to what took place in Tokyo Bay in September of 1945, when the Japanese came on the USS Missouri and were told, sign here or die. And I personally believe that at some point in time, the Russians are going to have a Ukrainian delegation come in and say, sign here or die. But that's an extreme interpretation. The reality is that the Russians are probably looking for an off-ramp, because they're not happy about what's happening to Ukraine. This breaks their heart. They didn't want to do this. They were given no choice. But you also have to understand that now the Russian population, now Putin, remember what I talked about earlier about the sanctions and the mobilization, how you could get the Russian population turned against you back then? The Russian population has flipped the script. They are now, let's finish this job. Denazification, demilitarization. They're all on board. And, the Russian government has to respect that too. So the Russian government can't come in and accept terms that might bring it into this conflict early, but would be unacceptable to the population that says we've lost too many men right now for a negotiated outcome. I think Blinken is throwing things out there, but the Russians aren't in receive mode right now. I think, Blinken might be throwing things out there for the West and Ukraine to begin to, come to agree. But the battlefield is going to dictate the conditions. Right now, Zelensky, the offensive, the surge is just starting. So right now, Zelensky's the shell collector on the beach who ran out there when the waves went away and he started collecting the shells. He's looking up going, ooh, water's coming back. It's lapping at my feet. But he still thinks that that's it, that he can still go out and get that last shell, those F-16s and those tanks, and we're gonna be a nice little shell collection we're gonna have. He doesn't realize that the surge is coming and it's gonna sweep him away and everybody else away. And Blinken, I think, doesn't realize that too. You know who does realize it? The Pentagon. They know what's about to happen. They see it happening, and they're going, no, there ain't going to be nothing left of this beach. Everybody on the beach is going to die, because that water is just going to come in and go all the way inland, sweep everything away, and that's it.
Yeah. And I mean, it has been interesting to watch this division play out, even publicly, while not out and out bickering with each other, but seeing how the Department of State, seeing how people like Newland and Blinken say one thing, and then the Pentagon and even the Joint Chiefs of Staff have been saying something a little different. And you had the Rand Corporation. I don't know if you saw that study, or I don't even call it a study. It was really a statement. It was really just, here is the situation. A long war is really bad for the United States.
But you have to start in 2019. The Rand Corporation wrote the study that said, strip Ukraine away, bring Russia down, and all that. Yep. And they committed to that. And now you got these guys going, And remember, they can't walk away from that because that means that they're stupid. They can't turn 180 degrees away from that. So they're basically saying everything we wrote there was sort of okay. Yes, 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 yes. But it would be in our best interest not to have a long war, and we
Yep.
need to get out. But the problem is all their supporting analysis doesn't reach that conclusion. If we're going to take that conclusion, we have to reverse engineer the analysis. And what they're saying is we were wrong about everything. We were wrong about everything, and we're not going to win this war, and we need to get out now. So yeah, Rand, they've got problems too.
Well, before we get to the Rage Against the War Machine rally, maybe we can keep talk. I just want to hear your take on then, if this is the case that the United States and NATO, let's just say the United States, since the United States is really driving the ship, and given Seymour Hersh's article, we saw that really there's a very small crew maybe at the head of this ship. Given that they're making it quite clear that on the one hand, they can't get off on an exit ramp. They feel like whatever it is, whether they feel like they're weak, whether they would look weak, it's bad politically, the objective overall, right? Get Russia. Pulling back is a impediment to that. But at the same time, there's this ever-growing reality on the ground that shows there really isn't much else that can be done other than more war or pull back. It feels like that contradiction is becoming incredibly sharp. Where do you, if I know this is all about kind of like guessing at this point, given things are so dynamic, but how do you see this playing out? That problem, I mean, the United States is facing a problem, as much as I think people kind of look from the outside and think, oh, well, the United States is steering the ship pretty steadily. Where do you think this is going?
It's my crystal ball. I'm going to look into it. But look, here's the reality that's coming in. NATO is a paper tiger. And I've been saying this for some time, and people have taken umbrage at that. I mean, they've gotten really mad at me about that.
Yeah, I bet.
But
I say it all the time too, but yeah.
But I just wait, and I'm like, okay, but we'll just let the facts play out. Right now, the British Army can't do anything. Literally can't. I mean, we talked about it earlier about Ben Wallace, about the Air Force. Let's give them airplanes. In Sunak's like, yeah, give them airplanes. And Wallace like, we don't have any airplanes to give. We got nothing. But who else doesn't have any airplanes to give? Germany. All their airplanes are broken. They can't get any of the airplanes off the ground. I mean, they can get some, but most of them are just hangar queens because they've not been maintaining them. France is the same way. We're the same way. Everybody's the same way. Let's say we go to war and we're going to bring the great NATO out air power. It ain't that great, guys. Really, just take a look at operational, rates. What percentage of aircraft we can actually take off. And then once you take them off, as you crank into maintenance hours because they break, how quickly they're going to draw down to nothing, where we literally can't get anything off the ground. But let's say they do take off. How many air-to-air missiles do we have in Europe right now ready to go to war? And the answer is not enough. That's a classified number. I mean, I could speculate, but I don't want to get in trouble. But the answer is not enough. We don't have enough of anything. And now Stoltenberg has just come out and admitted the truth that I've been saying all along. They don't have any artillery ammunition. The Ukrainians are burning up artillery ammunition. And remember, the Ukrainians are operating at about a 6-to-1, 10-to-1 deficit. So every artillery piece the Ukrainians have that goes boom, the Russians either have 6 or 10 going boom, 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 boom in return. And the Russians are never running out of ammunition. They never will run out of ammunition. Ukraine is running out of ammunition, and nobody has ammunition to give them. And Stoltenberg just said that. We got nothing. The British would run out of ammunition in a large-scale ground combat like this in how many days? There's the answer. 2 days. Great Britain runs out of ammo. And let me give you a pro tip, people. When you run out of ammo, you die. It's over. Okay? Rambo just doesn't work. Rambo without ammunition is a dead body, just a big body going in a body bag. That's it. Rambo doesn't exist. Ammunition exists, and we don't have any ammo. We don't have anything, nothing. And that's just a set. And finally, the U.S. commander in Europe is saying, yeah, we're not ready for this kind of war. At least finally, see, the Pentagon's starting to wake up. Because everybody's like, well, we're gonna push the Russians. He's like, no, let's just stop pushing the Russians right now, because you see, what people don't understand, it's not just that Putin mobilized 300,000 reservists in September. Late last year, he authorized the expansion of the Russian military to 1.5 million people. That means it's going to be a massive expansion of the Russian military. Most of them are going. It's not going to be a conscript expansion. There will be some conscripts, but most of them are going to be contract soldiers, professionals. They're expanding the airborne and the Marines. Why? Those are expeditionary forces. So now they have forces that can respond to crises around the world. Lots of more artillery. Imagine that. The Russians even getting more artillery. And their defense industry is gearing up and just cranking stuff out right now. Let's say hypothetically, I wanted to build more AMRAAM missiles, one of our advanced missiles for the fighter planes. I can't just call up Raytheon and say, crank them out, baby. Because Raytheon's going to say, with what money, baby? And they go, oh, well, we got to go to Congress. Okay, emergency defense appropriation. Okay, but now you have money and we tell crank out. But the one line that they have cranking this stuff out now can only do, X number a month. I don't know what it is, but it's not going to be a lot, which means they have to build another production line. But you can't just build another production line. That requires more funding. And then you got to do things like hire people that are qualified for the job, train them. Years go down the road before you can do that. We're not even there yet. The Russians are already doing this. So, we have created a situation where we've dug ourselves in the deepest hole possible, literally the deepest hole possible. There's no way out of this. There is no military solution. And anybody seeking to promote a military solution is encouraging then the end of the world, because the only military thing that we have that can go toe to toe with the Russians is nuclear. And once we do that, like I said, it's not a joke. Anybody who's out there thinking no big deal, we can do a limited nuclear attack. There's no such thing as a limited nuclear attack. Any use of nuclear weapons means the world will end instantaneously.
Yeah. I mean, as you were talking, I kept on thinking about these times, even during COVID, where the United States would invoke the Defense Production Act. And every time I think about that, I'm like, oh, but in this situation where we're talking about the United States trying to wage a war with Russia, you think, well, then you're going to have to produce a lot of ammunition, a lot of weapons. And then you're going to have to do something. That's a lot of labor. And also, as you said, years down the line can go by before you can build the facilities that you need, get everything that you need to make sure that what you need to produce is actually produced. And so Ukraine doesn't have that time. It seems like doesn't have all of that time to wait around.
We don't have that time.